Hello and welcome to episode 54 of Novel Knits. My name is Dehnel and this is my YouTube channel where I talk about what I'm knitting and what I'm reading. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. Thanks so much for coming back. I always love that you choose to spend some time with me. If you like talking about yarn, patterns, knitting, books, you're in the right place because that is my jam. Anyway, today I have 6 finished objects to share with you. That's what happens sometimes when you have a ton of works in progress and you get a finishing bug. That is exactly what happened to me. So we'll talk about that more when I get into my FOs. I also only have about 3 works in progress, and I thought I would talk a little bit about my next month's knitting goals. That seems to be working for me really well, to kind of take it month by month and kind of set a goal of what I would like to start, finish, accomplish with my personal knitting. And yeah, that I think going forward, that's a much better way for me to manage my goals rather than, doing big year-long goals. But anyway, and then I will also have some book club at the end. And I have a couple acquisitions that I picked up at a trip for work. So I'll have some personal stuff at the end too, if you want to stick around. So that is kind of the layout of the land for what we're going to do today. And I'm really excited to get going. Really quick, the admin stuff. Everything I talk about will be listed below this video. It is called the description box, but where it says more, just click on that and that will take you to links to all of my Ravelry pages, anything else I talk about. And you can find me Instagram and Ravelry as Novel Knit Girl. And I am still hosting a year-long make-along called Chapters 2024. And this is a year-long make-along. All you have to do is use yarn that you've had prior to January 1st of this year to make any project. It can be big, small, whatever, and it's been really inspiring to see what you're all making. There have been emotional support chickens, there have been socks, there have been sweaters, beautiful garments, hats, accessories. Please join us. It is so fun to see what you're all making. You can also use a hashtag on Instagram, Chapters2024. Just make sure you tag me so that I see it. And yeah, we are still doing it. I will have another gift away for this make along in October, and then I'm going to start putting together some grand prizes for the end of the year. I'm hoping to have 2 or 3 because you guys have been really doing a great job of shopping your stash, and it's been such an inspiration to me. So keep doing it, and it's never too late to join, and you can enter as many times as you want. And some of you are doing awesome, way better than me. So keep it up. All right, let's get into my finished objects. I'm drinking English breakfast tea today because that's all I drink these days. And I have my first of 6 finished objects. I actually had finished this before I posted my last video. It is the Party Line Scarf by Kaci of Young Folk Knits. I started this on July 26th and finished it on August 8th. I used some leftover mohair from the Bennett sister shawl that I made and showed in my last episode. I had to get another skein of mohair, and it was sport weight. And it was it's great for that shawl, but I didn't know what else I would use it for, so I decided to just cast on this Party Line shawl or scarf and go from there. So this is really fun. It's super rhythmic. I loved making this. This yarn was excellent for the project. I wasn't positive while I was knitting on it if I loved it, but now that it's finished, I do love it. I really feel like this is a very versatile pattern. You could use any weight of yarn. You could hold maybe a fingering and a mohair together. You could do DK, you could do fingering. I just feel like it's super, I will definitely make this again. The only modifications that I made to this were I did 1 extra repeat. So this is the repeat. I don't know how well you're seeing this. So from the garter through the eyelets is a repeat. And I did 1 extra to just add a little bit more length. And for the bind off, I did a much more simple bind off than she calls for in the pattern, and it worked just fine. So customizable. If you follow me on Instagram, this is my new little picture because I think it is really cute. I don't really think of myself as this kind of gal, but I am really liking it. The reason that I added that second, that extra repeat is I didn't know if I'd ever want to wear it tighter on like a cold day I mean, this is a mohair, so it's gonna be pretty warm. I think this works too. It's really cute. I love it. So now I feel like I have to buy a whole new fall jacket in order to wear this. I don't think my husband will agree with me, but I really enjoy it. So this is finished. The party line scarf, excellent pattern, worth your time and energy, I think, and super customizable. Okay, then I finished a sweater. I have finished 3 sweaters since we spoke last. And what I did, I actually tried to record this video before I went on my trip, and my words just were not there. And I decided to scrap that. But I did take some footage of me wearing these sweaters because it has been so hot here lately. I knew I wasn't gonna wanna sit here in a sweater. So I will insert me wearing the sweater at some point while I'm talking about it. But I finished the Felix Pullover by Christoffers. And here it is. It's gonna be really hard to show. You'll see it better in the video, and I've talked about it a lot, but it is a black sweater and it is complete. If you've never made the Felix before, it has a beautiful lacy raglan increase section here. And the yarn I used is Old Stash yarn. It's Cloudborne Fibers, Superwash Highland Worsted in their black color. And I held it with Knit Pixel Loft in black too. So it's got a beautiful halo on it. And I'm really happy with it. I started this on May 30th and I finished it on August 3rd. Modifications, I did not make very many. I did not do any sleeve decreases. I did a rapid decrease and then did the cuff. I do not at this point do tubular Italian cast-ons, bind-offs. I just don't. I figured in black yarn it was gonna be okay. I would like to add that to my knitting skill set. I just haven't gotten there yet. But what I do is when I bind off and I'm doing ribbing, I just bind off in the ribbing, and I thought in black especially it looked okay. I'm right on gauge, but I went down a needle size. I think I'm very happy with this. I mean, I don't even want to say I'm disappointed, but I made another Felix in the past. And this is also, weirdly enough, using Cloudborne Fibers, but they're acrylic yarn. You can probably see the detailing better. I wear this a lot. This is a much more open gauge. Sorry, it's been folded in my closet. It's a much more open gauge that you can almost like see through. And it has a little bit more of a sweatshirt feel to it. And it's a little bit bigger on me. And that, I mean, you can just kind of tell, I can tell just holding them, this feels a lot heavier and this feels a lot lighter. Part of it is the yarn, part of it is the gauge. If I hold them next to each other, I don't know if my lighting's gonna really show you the difference in the gauge. Yeah, I think you can kind of see. But anyway, I like them both a lot. And if I could start over, I think I would stick with that size 10 needle and do this on a slightly more open gauge. But the way it turned out is absolutely fabulous, and I'm really not complaining. It's just more of an observation, and just the difference of holding that mohair and going down a needle size. But this is definitely a sweater that I enjoy a lot. Obviously, I made it twice, and I don't make a lot of sweaters twice. I'm not that kind of person. I've made this sweater and the Love Note twice, and that's it. Okay, after I finished those two projects, I thought, what else can I finish pretty quickly? And I really wanted to knit a pair of socks to get them off the needle. And I thought, I don't know if I can get there with a fingering weight pair, but I know I can get there with my DK weight socks. So I grabbed my DK weight vanilla socks. This is a free pattern, I believe, by the Crazy Sock Lady. And I completed these. So these are done. They are I love this yarn. I'll never talk about it again. I think this yarn has gotten the most airtime of any yarn ever on my channel. So this is Lavender Loon fingering weight yarn held double. The colorway is called Shadow Singer. So it's black and gray, but it has these specks of different colors in it. That it's very subtle, and it is a sparkle base, but she sold this to me super discounted because she killed the sparkle. So, I mean, every once in a while you get like a little sparkle, but it's not overwhelmingly sparkle, but I still have quite a bit of this yarn left over. It's going into my blankets at this point. I've already made a sweater and now a pair of DK weight socks. So the rest of it is going into my sweaters, but I'm very happy with these. These are probably for me, possibly for my daughter for Christmas, but she doesn't love my socks. So I might just keep them for myself. We'll see. Okay, so then I thought, well, I have another sweater I'm very close to being finished with. And before I jump into that, let me just tell you, the DK weight vanilla socks, I started those on April 11th and finished them on August 8th. So that's all I had to finish there, telling you. Okay, and so far, everything I've shown you, except for the mohair in my Felix, has been stash yarn. Well, actually, this was not stash yarn because I had to buy this to finish the shawl. So this is not stash yarn, but everything else. This next one is all stash yarn too. So I remembered I had this little sweater on the needles called the Big Rib by Jessie Maed Designs. And I pulled it out of its bag and I only had the bottom hem, 2 sleeves, and a collar to finish. And I thought, on bulky yarn, let's do this. So I did. I finished my Big Rib. Here it is. And here's the video of me wearing it. So the jury is kind of out on this one for a few reasons. One, I loved the pattern. Making this pattern was really fun. I don't necessarily love ribbing, but this was easy. It was bulky. It went fast. I love the color. Overall, I liked a lot about it. What I don't think worked great was my yarn choice. So the yarn I'm using, that I used, is Knit Picks Wonder Fluff in the color Beehive Heather. I started this March 20th and I finished it on August 7th. And the other thing is I have a lot of sweater needles. I think I have 4 sets of interchangeable needles so that I can cast on whenever I want. And that's great, but then sometimes I end up using, most of my needles are wooden. So I believe I have 5 sets. I think I have 3 sets of Knit Picks interchangeable needles, just their wooden tips. I have 1 set of the Luca wooden needles. And then I have 1 set of the Knit Picks metal needles. And that is what I ended up using for this. And because this bulky yarn is so light and airy, it felt like the metal needles really pulled on my stitches, just the weight of them a little bit. So I think, and I will say I did not totally love knitting with this yarn, but it could have been the yarn and needle combination more than anything else. Yeah, I'm not sure. So I'm gonna be really interested to see how this sweater holds up, because I have, I think, 4 more sweater quantities of this Knit Picks Wonder Fluff. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, yes. And I'm not thrilled with how it felt to knit with it. So if it holds up really nicely, I think that'll make a difference for me. But if it doesn't, I may be destashing that yarn. We'll see. Anyway, one of the big, I think, design elements for this that really is amazing is how she joins the front and the back and that continuous rib, and it was so fun to construct and do. I just really enjoyed making this, other than the yarn and metal needle combination. So stay tuned for updates. It is also maybe a little too long, but I can do a French tuck and I can make it work for me, so it'll be fine. In the videos, I am not really styling these sweaters at all. I was just wearing cotton shorts, and afterwards I thought, no, I really maybe should have put a little bit more thought into how I was presenting these knits, but it's my first time. I'll do better next time. And my editing skills are remedial at best. If you've watched my very earliest videos, I talk about getting better and working on it. I never did. And I don't really have a big interest in video editing. I don't really have time for it. But I can cut and splice on iMovie. I always have expectations to do better. So maybe one day we'll get there, but I'm not there yet. Okay, and then my final sweater FO, you guys. I finished it, my Sur Shirt by Caidree, and it is beautiful, and it has some stripage at the bottom. So I ended up going with so if you did not watch my last episode, and that is totally fine, I realized I was probably going to run out of the yarn. So I had got a kit from Sonder Yarn for the Salty Air tee, which is great, but it's a totally different gauge than this t-shirt, and I was running out of yarn with 2 skeins. So this is Sonder Yarn Muse in the color Moss, and then I just knew I did not want this to be this short. It is perhaps a little too long, but I would much rather have it covering me than not. I'll put the video of me wearing it right here. Now in that video, it was a little bit damp yet, so it has gotten a little bit smaller since then. It just kind of tightened up a little bit when it finished blocking. But yeah, so I got inspiration from Ravelry for sure, to do these thicker stripes and then go to these shorter stripes. And then I went into a split hem, which is called for in the pattern. I'm glad I did the split hem. I'm glad it's long. Again, I can tuck it in if I need to in the front. I can wear it maybe, you know, with shorts. I don't actually know how I'm gonna wear this yet, so I'm gonna have to play around with it, but I'm really happy with it. This is so drapey. I absolutely love it. So the reason I could not get any more of this color is because Sonder Yarn discontinued the space. So I did finish it up with some Pearl Soho linen quill, and this is called Golden Green. And I think I'm happy with it. I didn't really want to introduce another color. I didn't really want to do stripes. There were things I definitely didn't want. However, I think this was a pretty good compromise. I didn't want to undo the collar. I didn't want to have that golden green up by my face because I just didn't know how that would look up by my face. I'm just not sure. I had a lot of feelings, but in general, I'm happy with how I decided to finish it off, and it has been folded in my closet because I, again, thought I was done recording about it. I will wear this in a future episode so you can see it again. Overall, I think I'm happy with it. In general, I didn't really think about it, but this kind of sleeve is not the most flattering on my arms, so I'm gonna have to work with that a little bit. But other than that, I'm really happy with it. Some highlights of this pattern, and other than the adding in the stripes, I didn't make any other modifications. The invisible seam at the top is really a highlight for me. It's beautiful. The color is beautiful. split hem, I've never done one before. You would think in all these years I would have, but I didn't. This side is a little messy. This side looks better. Yeah, this side looks nice. So I'm not sure what happened, but it doesn't really bother me. I'm overall very happy with it. Okay. And then I thought that was it. I thought that was all the finished objects I was gonna have. And then I went on a work trip and I finished a sock. So I finished my morning coffee socks by the Crazy Sock Lady. And I used yarn to die for in the color Birdie Bot's Delicious Beans. And I started these on April 29th and finished them on August 25th. And here they are. So I'm using natural light today and I see there's some shadowing, but these turned out really, really well. I really enjoy these. This is a lovely, rhythmic, easy pattern, just knits and purls in a different order. I don't remember when I finished the first one, but I cast on the second one and it was basically my plain knitting. And then I finished it when I got home. So yeah, these turned out really wonderfully. Very happy with these as well. And that's another pair of socks off my needles. So yeah, that was a lot of finished objects today. And hopefully I explained everything well enough. Then I also decided to do a square for my Culmination blanket. This is going to be a sweater Culmination blanket for me. So I'm using sweater scraps. This is a pattern by Lindsey Fowler. It is in her Salt and Timber book. That is the project photo in her book. This is a beautiful book. I love it. There's definitely several projects in here I would like to make. So using my leftover beehive heather in the Wonder Fluff, I made this square to go along with these bibliophile squares that I had made earlier this year. So now I have 3. I have enough of the black yarn to make a square, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to add a black square to my blanket. I think what I will do is make one, and I can always choose not to use it at the end if I want. I definitely don't have enough of, I have none of the Sonder yarn left to make anything with it. That is completely gone. So that will not get a Culmination square, but I have a couple other squares coming up from some sweaters that I'm working on now. So here are the 3 of them together, getting there square by square. I was hoping to get through this blanket this year, but I don't think I will. This is gonna be at least a 2-year project, I think. All right, so that is a work in project / finished object. And then I also, of course, when I travel, so I went to Seattle for a conference. Some of you may know, my sister also lives out there. So I thought I was gonna have a ton of knitting time. One of my former colleagues, who also happens to be one of my best friends, also went on this conference, and she is one of those people who is not gonna let life pass her by. We are not sitting in a room knitting when we can go experience Seattle, so I got out and about a lot more than I was planning to. So I did not get as much knitting done on my trip as I was expecting to, but that is okay. I had a wonderful time. Another project that I brought are the library socks by the kitchen sink. Sorry, just let me turn my page. These are socks I'm making for my dad for Christmas, and I'm using Full Moon Fibers sock yarn in the color Flannel Jacket, and these are 72 stitch sock for my dad. So I've made the library socks before. It's another knit purl pattern that is just really fun to work on, and I just added a Fish Lips Kiss heel in here for him. I was gonna do a heel flap and gusset, but then I just didn't want to. And I was in an airport and this is what happened. I decided to grab this kind of plum yarn for the heel, which I think matches pretty well. So yeah, I'll keep working on these. I've got a couple more months, but I would like to finish one of these socks soon. It always looks really funny, right, with that Fish Lips Kiss heel right there, but it looks normal when the sock is done. But yeah, I really like this yarn. There are some kind of undyed spots in it, which doesn't bother me. I don't think it'll bother my dad either, but it's just something that's like every time I see it, because the yarn is so dark, it kind of sticks out more than I think it would, but it's very pretty. I really do love the yarn, and I think it's just gorgeous to work with. And my dad picked it out. I gave him a couple skeins to choose from, and he chose this one, so he'll really enjoy these. And it's a very, very soft base. I don't have the tag in here, but it's extremely soft. And finally, I did cast on a new garment. I cast on the Caidree. I don't know why I always want to say that. The Home Camisole by Caidree. So this is the picture. You can see it's just kind of a tank, a V-neck tank. I've had this on my list for a while, and funny story, I was actually much further and I had a mishap, so I will tell you about that, but I'll show you what I have so far. It's in a really odd place to show it right now. Okay, so I did have this all connected yesterday, and then I had to tear it out. So I have the front 2 triangles done, and I have the back right, and I am working on the back left. So as I said yesterday, I had this all completed. I was gonna do a couple rows around and have it ready to show you in a much better way. So I'm sure you can tell how this construction is going to be, but it's going to be a V-neck like this. So for this, I am using Knit Picks Capra DK in the color Hemlock Heather. It's a lovely green. I love it. I grabbed all of the skeins of this that I had in a trunk. I have yarn squirreled all around this house. And so then I had everything just in this bag, as you do, and I reached in because, you know, I had this much left of one of these balls, and I thought I'll just grab a different one and get going. And I did the 4th triangle, and I was like, this has some like thinner spots. I wonder what's going on. And I kept going, and I joined it, and I was like, something's not right. I think this is fingering weight yarn, not DK. So I looked, and of course now I can't find it in here. But yes, I had, with all of my DK, I had this one skein of Knit Picks Caparetta in the same color. And now I will admit I was having a cocktail. But yeah, they look similar, but they're not the same. And I did actually have that moment of holding it up and thinking, what if I just re-add the DK? But the strap was so much thinner. It just didn't look as filled out or as nice. I could not use it. So I had to rip everything out and restart that last triangle with the DK, which is the correct thing to do when we're trying to, you know, be better with our finished objects and be happier with our knits. So yeah, so it's in a weird place to show it right now, but it is coming along nicely, and I really think it'll be a great piece once I'm done with it. So yes, that, I think I technically started it on August 9th. Yes. So onward with that one. I think once I join in the round, it's going to go fast, and then you do a little trim with some I-cords, I believe, around the collar and the sleeves. So hopefully it'll be a great piece when I'm done with it. And who knows, maybe it'll go fast now that I have the right yarn. Okay. So for the next month, my goals, what are they? I didn't write them down, so I'm going to do these off the seat of my pants. One goal I have is I have 2 more socks that have 1 sock completed that need their pair. So the first one is the Fuzzy Feet by 4 City Knit Girls. I have cast it on the cuff, and I just need to do a second sock. So that I would like to finish this month. And by this month, I'm already thinking about September, even though we still have a few days left in August. And then I have these Mercury socks that I've been working on forever. And I love them. They're gorgeous. They're fun to work on. This yarn is so fun from Vivid Yarn Studios. And I just really want to finish these. I'm a little bit further on this one. So in terms of clearing off some more sock needles, those two, I definitely would like to do that. I also have that, I think it is the, let me see, I think I showed it last time, so let me see what it was called so that I get it right. The Italian Autumn Cowl by an Italian knitter that I'm using some of my own hand-dyed yarn to knit. I would also like to finish that and get that off my needles, just because I would like to cast on, I really want to cast on a Pure Joy shawl by Joji Locatelli, and I just feel like I need, again, to get some of these hanger-oners off the needles, and then I can either wear it this fall or gift it. We'll see how it turns out, and then I'll decide what to do with that. I also did swatch for a Tolsta tee by the Crayabea. I've been wanting to make one for a long time. My swatch came out very big, so I seem to be a looser knitter than she is. So I'm gonna go down a needle size and cast that on probably this week. And my port sweater, which has just been waiting and waiting and waiting in the wings, is gonna get cast on soon as well. And I have also, because I'm in this whole, I don't know where it is, but I've been in this whole finishing era, we'll say, because that's a very in word to say right now. I'm gonna finish that Douglas cardigan because it will be a great fall wardrobe piece. So I've been working on the button band, and once I finish the button band, I have to sew it on, finish this much of a sleeve, and add the pockets. I could do that in a couple evenings, so that will be, those are kind of my goals. So I have 4 things I would like to finish in September, and 3 things I'd like to cast on. Probably more, because that's who I am. I'm sure if I have 3 empty sock needles, there will be some yarn that jumps on, and then I'll just have to prioritize some other socks as well. So, but I love making socks, so it never bothers me, but I don't want them to be sitting in project bags for over a year anymore. That just seems silly. If I wanted to cast it on, I should keep working on them and finish them. That's just me scolding myself a little bit. Okay, so that is it. No, there's one more thing. So I mentioned that I went to Seattle, and when I say I went to Seattle, I went Seattle. We normally, when I go to the Pacific Northwest, I stay with my sister outside of Seattle, and we do a lot of hiking, and we're very like in nature and in the mountains. For this conference, I was in the city. I was city proper, 12 blocks from the public market, which was wonderful and strange. They've decriminalized drug use downtown, so it's definitely something I've never experienced before in my life. I've been going down there off and on for vacations for about 15 years, and this is definitely the worst I've ever seen. It was also the most I've ever been down there. So that was interesting, but I got to spend a lot of time at the public market. I went to Starbucks One. I've seen it multiple times, but there's always a line down the street. And for some reason on a Tuesday morning, there was no line. I took pictures, I walked right in, I got a chai tea with almond milk, and I walked out and I was very happy. I went to some great restaurants around the public market and just had such a fun time. So it was really great. We also, my friend and I, we got there one day before the conference started, and we decided to take a car ride out to Leavenworth, which is a Bavarian village. And on the way, we made some stops and saw some beautiful nature areas, Deception Pass, and we stopped where they filmed Harry and the Hendersons, which I'm starting to think that may not be as relevant anymore as it used to be, but it was fun nonetheless. Some Bigfoot attractions. But it was another wonderful day, and being in the Cascade Mountains, which is my happy place. So that was basically all the fun stuff. But if you've ever been to Seattle, or if you live there, or if you just want to know this information, there is a yarn shop 1 block from the public market. And it is called So Much Yarn. And this is the 3rd time I visited. I always get something. And I wanted to get something local from Washington. So I picked out this yarn. It is called Lyrical Fibers, and she's a dyer from Spokane, Washington. And this color is called Brown Eyed Girl. And she names all of her yarns after song lyrics. So there were some beautiful, beautiful yarns, and I'm kind of in my neutral phase, and I just really love these. So I don't know if this is what this is gonna be. My instinct is always socks, but I think I wanna try to make some different things this year. Perhaps some gloves. I know that's very scary with fingers and everything. Or else some flap mittens, fingerless mittens with like a flap. So this could be in the running for something like that. So I really love this. And then this one got me just because she had a sample sock knit up, and I thought, oh, that's great. And then after I purchased it, I realized this is even sport weight yarn. So this is Circulo hand painted Lucky Feet sport sock yarn. It's basically camo colors, so brown, black, gray, and it's sport weight, like I said. It's made in Turkey, and so I thought, on a US size 2 needle, this would be really great for either my husband Nathan or my son Milo to just whip out a pair of socks real quick. And yeah, having that, everybody always says the samples sell. The samples sold me this yarn, because both my friend and I, who she tried to knit once, it's Julie, who I sometimes mention on here that I make things for, and I gave Julie her socks. She was like, that is just, it looks really good, and I think you'd really like knitting with that. And I was like, okay, twist my arm a little bit more. So yeah, so I picked up those 2 skeins of yarn, and it was a lot of fun. So it was great. Okay, now we are done with the yarn and the personal stuff. So I'm just going to go into my book club now to finish this out, and then we will be done. A little sip of tea. Okay. Fun fact about me, I really dislike drinking and eating on camera, and that's why a lot of times I cut out if I take a drink of anything, because it's, I don't know. It's just a thing for me. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, it's just a thing. All right, so book club. I finished quite a few books. I'll explain a few of my choices at the end, but I finished The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I gave that 4 stars. I really liked it. I was reading it, and I was like, oh, this is cute, I'm gonna like it. And then it took a turn, and I was like, oh, please hold. I'm not sure if this is for me anymore. And I ended up enjoying it. So it's kind of light. I read it a while ago, so I'm trying to remember, but basically there's a ghost element to it that I wasn't sure I was gonna dig, and I did. So if that sounds fun to you, I mean, it was a good one. I liked it. Then I read The Unwedding by Ali Kandi. I gave that 3 stars. I had read Ali Kandi's Matched series, like 10 years ago now, and I really enjoyed her writing, and I think she wrote another small series that was like not as good, but I still enjoyed it. This book I didn't really love. It had a lot of similarities to The Guest List by Lisa Foley, and not as well executed. I don't always feel like I see plot twists coming, and I really did in this one. So it was just okay. I give it 3 stars. She's a nice writer, but I just didn't love it. Then I read A Little Too Late by Serena Bowen. Oh, I remember this one. So I've told you I have a thing for Rebecca Yarros and her books, and she had written this book that I think called A Little Too Close. Sorry, words were getting... Let's take a breath. Okay. She wrote this book called A Little Too Close, and I was like, it wasn't great, but it looked like it was a series, so I'd read the series. So then I purchased this book a little too late and realized that it's different authors that wrote different stories in the same setting. And I was like, oh, okay. So I read this one and it was fine. I wouldn't have read it though if I understood the fine print. But I gave it 3 stars, it was fine. Then I read Such Charming Liars by Karen McManus. She is the author of One of Us is Lying, and she does really great young adult kind of thriller mysteries. This one was not so great. I gave this one 3 stars. It just missed a little bit for me. I would say any other book of hers that I've read, I have enjoyed. This one was just like, meh, it was okay. Then I read Beneath These Cursed Stars by Lexi Ryan. This was a new release. She had written, which I reread, so I'll just add those here now, These Hollow Vows and These Twisted Bonds. I read that duology probably a year ago, and I did really like it. So I was like, I will read Beneath These Cursed Stars, and I really liked that too. The characters I thought were great. The plot kept me going. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I read the other 2. They're both 4-star books for me. And then I thought, well, maybe she's another Rebecca Yarros who everything else she's ever written is not this kind of fantasy kingdoms, you know, world. It's contemporary romance. So I grabbed one of her contemporary romance books for my flight because I like light and airy and happy when I'm flying. So I chose Every Little Piece of Me, and I'm gonna stick with her fantasy genre. I didn't think it was worth, that sounds mean. I didn't like it. So I gave it 3 stars. I read it, it was fine. But yeah, and then the other 2 books that I read for my light and airy travel reading on Audible was The Deal by Elle Kennedy and The Mistake by Elle Kennedy, and I gave both of those 3 stars. They were fine. I don't know that I'll read any more by her, but they did what I needed them to do while I was flying, which was to keep me calm and happy and generally like in my happy space. So if you're new here, I read very widely, I feel, but I do read more heavily into the romance department right now for some reason. I think it has a lot to do with midlife crisis. All right, what am I currently reading? I just started How to End a Love Story by Yulin. Ooh, I don't know how okay. I can't read my handwriting. So How to End a Love Story, and if you look it up, I'm sure you'll find it. And then I just started it, so I'm not really sure what I think about it. It is a little different than what I was expecting, but if you've been here before, that happens to me. And then I am on the last 4th of War Queen by Nicola Taichi, and this will be my last book by her in the series, and I'm really excited to watch it end. It's fine. I'm ready to move on. In terms of this like fantasy genre where there's kingdoms, kings, queens, alliances, wars, it's weak, but it's not terrible. So I'm reading it and it's okay. It was a book talk recommendation, and it was the last one because while I did find Divine Rivals on Book Talk, a lot of the other things I found were not hits for me. So anyway, that is all I have for today. So as always, if you've hung on this long, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you. Please leave me a comment, like, subscribe, share with a friend if you would like. I'm getting suspiciously close to 500 subscribers, and I know that there's kind of some new things I can do if we ever hit 500 subscribers. So that would be cool. And I, of course, would do a gift away for that because I never thought I would have more than 40 people watching me here. So thanks for joining me, and it will not be too long, hopefully, before you see me again. But yeah, keep knitting, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.